know-how. Our next specialist is Mr. Rafael Guendelman Hales. He's from Chile. Mr. Guendelman is a filmmaker, and he's a member of Consenso for Palestino-Israelí peace in Santiago. He is a specialist in design, animation, film, and he focuses on the mutual influences between people and landscapes. He has participated in numerous expositions in Chile, the United States, France, Israel, and Palestine as well. Thank you very much for being here, and sir, you have the floor. Thank you. Hales is Ales, which comes from Harasa. I introduced myself the other day. I participated in the Chilean consensus, but I'm not going to speak about the Chilean consensus efforts. My colleague will give an introduction to that later, but I will instead be showing you a video that is also being shown today in Chile in our art gallery. It offers a more contemplative look, less manipulated, less journalistic look at the situation. The idea being to offer one interpretation and to perhaps lead to discussion. My approach on the conflict, my interest, is not just because of my family. I actually haven't participated in either of the communities. 3 years ago I became aware because I was involved in a humanitarian project. My parents were persecuted during the dictatorship in Chile. And even today, we have to pay the price for having a justice system that did not make sure that justice was done. I saw the Palestinian-Jewish conflict up close because of what we have gone through, and I felt a closeness as well with the Palestinians that were under military occupation, as we Chileans lived under military occupation for 17 years. I was born in '87, so I experienced 2 years of dictatorship, but I remember the towers. I used to hide in the car because I thought they were going to shoot at me from the guard towers. And when I went to Palestine, these memories were revived. I began to think about these memories. Someone who lives in Chile, one has one's own problems. We have deep social problems, of course. There's injustice. We have poverty, illiteracy, education being just for the rich, while we have indigenous, for the rich, while we have indigenous peoples, the Mapuches, who don't have access to quality education. So it makes more sense for me to stay in Chile and fight for these causes instead of to go to this conflict that was so far from me. However, I do draw comparisons and similarities. There's the humanitarian aspect in both cases. And I agree with Pedro. There's an urgency in these situations. An urgency that we can't set aside. So many years have gone by and we keep hearing the same comments, the same solutions about the settlements, segregation, racial segregation, ethnic segregation, etc. So I'm going to show you a short 6-minute video. It's an artistic documentary, if you will. It's an observation. And it has to do with research that I made into landscape, and how landscape influences man, and how man influences landscape. I had focused on the effect of the earthquake and tsunami that came in 2010, and how this affected people, and how people lived with this disaster, and how policy or politics operates also in its world so very far from our daily lives. And journalism sort of follows the politics and perhaps not what's happening on a daily basis. So I want to focus on daily life and criticize how things were handled. So once again, this was an earthquake and tsunami in the south of Chile, and so I tried to get away from a journalistic telling of this. I didn't want it to be manipulated or spun. I didn't want it to be spin. So I think I'm gonna put the video on right now. Perhaps this doesn't really fall within the fold of the discussion on civil society networks. However, art, cinema, film has a key role, not just in communication. A professor of art told me once that art doesn't communicate. I said, how can art not communicate? Of course it's essential that art communicates something. And he said, well, no, it's not journalism. It's not about finding a topic and presenting information. It's an invitation. Art's an invitation to have your perception and to have your ideas. But I think that this can allow for us to raise awareness on a given topic, and I think that it also shows that the citizenry can take action, whether it's through a boycott or a protest or through working with the foreign ministry, etc. Thank you for turning off the lights. Here's the film. The project is sort of a trip from Jerusalem to the Jordan River.
Luces, por favor. Un par de cosas que no...
A couple of things that I had not said by way of introduction. These images were shot during the first half of 2012, and during that time I was working in an NGO, Palestine Monitoring, it was called. It was in the West Bank. And there were a number of small documentary reports where specific situations were being highlighted in the conflict. And this is in parallel, it's beyond the context of the art. And then as a final thoughts, as it were, it seems to me that today the media have a completely different purpose or function than they did 5, 10, or 20 years ago. And I think what's important in that is it's possible to transcend physical borders as we have in a conflict like this. We can go beyond the wall and show what's happening behind it. If you look at the web pages, you have platforms where you see where Palestinians on the other side of the wall can give their testimonies, and people on this side of the wall can bear witness as well. And so you can come to some sort of agreement about what is happening. Very often in the diaspora, people don't know what's going on, or they didn't in the past. But now they can. That's basically what I wanted to say as a final thought. Thank you.